To accept the kind of money and also cards and articles of stuff that I would put in there. I probably need George Costanza's wallet, as you were saying, as well as to get it in there. But just it's if it works, then it's not too much of a big deal. But still, just it could have been better.
Yeah, it's just heavily unnecessary at this point. I need something a bit more modern. I've been neglecting it for the longest time, and I figured that since I'm going to be traveling a lot more over the coming years, I'm going to need something a little bit more slim and compact. That way I feel more comfortable, and just having something in my pocket that doesn't look like I have a tumor growing inside my leg or something.
Gotcha. Well, let me take a look at the...
So I posted you the link right there. It's actually a pretty... pretty simplistic yet kind of brilliant kind of wallet that I bought here. It's
wow,
it's pretty nice. This actually was a Kickstarter.
Are you going to 90s it up and have a giant chain from that to your pants?
Why not? It looks. I like the design of it, and I don't really have that much cards or anything. It's not like I'm loaded with credit cards. The rest of my other cards I have are just discounted cards for stores and stuff like that, and health cards, but I don't really have that much to carry. But it's just somehow, some way, I ended up having a bulky wallet. So I hope this here will help me have a slimmer wallet and some more space in my pockets.
Nothing says a confident man like a smaller bulge.
There we go.
I'm sorry.
It's not the size that matters, CH. It's how you use it.
It's not the size. It's what cards you got in it.
There we go.
Yeah, we got also just some interesting stuff that's been going on with finally some really interesting stuff that's happening with gaming. We've had Deus Ex: Mankind Divided, Sony's new announcement, Nintendo doing their iPhone game. A lot of different things.
Well, let's get it started, ladies. Let's get it started. It's that time again, ladies and gentlemen. It's episode 185 of Bloody Thumbs Podcast. As always, I'm joined by the illustrious co-host known as Mr. C.H. Gorog.
Hello, ladies and germs. I am doing very, very well tonight. How are you doing, my friend Splinter?
And I am Splinter47 here, having a great day.
No, you actively doing. You are making that great day.
I'm making that great day. It's not making me. I'm making the great day. We just had the discussion of wallets, and just all my list of things that I need to take care of, and I'm already better prepared than I was the year before with my travels. So I'll be going to Thailand next month, and I'm looking forward to that. I really hope that I don't get bit by a lot of mosquitoes, because I don't do well with mosquitoes. I think they're the bane of my existence. Ever since I was younger, when I would go to my family outside the states, I'd always get bitten up like nobody's business by mosquitoes. I never react well with them. They kind of turn into these water bubble kind of cyst looking things whenever I get bit by mosquitoes. They're the worst. They're the worst.
There's the downside of mosquitoes not only extends to themselves and their being, but also extend to the fact that we killed something like 5 million bees in South Carolina because they tried to spray for the Zika virus, and then the pesticides accidentally killed all those bees, which are good bees, because bees are good, bees are awesome, we need more bees, and it was just terrible.
Well, bees, I can understand. We gotta get some of that honey, and there's other elementals, and there's a lot of there are a lot of things that surprisingly have a huge impact on the circle of life. It's just kind of the way the needle spins or needle drops, as they say. But nevertheless, I'm very much looking forward to the trip next month, and I've already bought tickets to Japan for February, Tokyo, Japan. I'm already excited for that.
I cannot wait to hear the stories that you got, and I hope you enjoy your wonderful, wonderful trip.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm probably gonna get some additional tattoo art added onto my sanctuary, as I call my body, when I get to Thailand. Get them tattoos blessed by some monks.
Nice.
Some of that back tattoos that Angelina Jolie got from over there.
In Wanted?
In Wanted, yeah, like on those shoulders. That's kind of like the part of the Sakyant, one of the many other like sacred tattoo blessings that there's many different ones that they all mean or do different things for, like good fortunes, good luck, blessed podcasting, all that sort of stuff.
I hope you have one that just says, "May the last episodes of Hitman come out and be splendid."
That's what I'm hoping for. We're actually going to be getting an additional episode, a new episode this month. Actually, I'm surprised that it's come out as kind of soon as it did, because I guess the gap between 3 and 4 was kind of a longer wait than I was used to, but it's not as long of a way, I guess, as in terms of some past Telltale game episodes that it kind of felt like it's been an eternity since they've come out. But with the Hitman episodic releases, they've been pretty steady, and not a whole lot of big gaps in between. The last episode in Thailand, so it all comes back around. It was in Thailand, and I thought it was a really good episode, and had a lot of very creative things, as a lot of Hitman levels do. They're all very, very creative in their own right, with you being able to accomplish a bunch of tasks and play the same level many times and do different things, which is what the challenges that they have allow you to do, and kind of get the most replay value out of them. I wasn't a big fan of the Marrakesh episode. Morocco wasn't my favorite. I felt like it was very not much to do with the environment. The location kind of limited their creative ideas, I guess, in terms of being able to do a lot more than what you could.
Mm.
But I'm looking forward to the episode 5. It's coming out later this month. It's going to be set in, I think it was in Colorado from what I remember offhand. It was from a snippet I had read.
Ooh, they're going to use the bong weapon again then.
You never know. There's that, so I'm very much looking forward to trying that out. It's kind of like the only thing I've been really playing over the last kind of few months, and kind of hoping to get into more Telltale Batman whenever they decide to come out with it, which will be this month, actually.
Oh man, I'm interested in trying to get that game, and I've heard really good things about the first episode. I'm still just so burned on that Game of Thrones adaptation that they did that I'm going to wait. And
yeah, I absolutely feel you on that. It doesn't hurt to wait it out if you want to, like you were mentioning before, or maybe get a taste of it on a Let's Play. Maybe that will to quench your thirst while you kind of decide where you're going to go from there.
Yeah, I'd probably need to get into that, and just because I love Tales from the Borderlands, I love the first season of The Walking Dead, I love The Wolf Among Us, and I know these guys are great storytellers, and I know that they would probably do some pretty interesting things with the Batman franchise. The first being that I've heard from is that they make Bruce Wayne an interesting part. It's not just like, oh, okay, we need to, Bruce Wayne's just a setup of the problems going on, then Batman's the cool stuff. It's like, no, it's actually Bruce Wayne just has some pretty interesting things that he needs to do. And I'm interested in seeing that, But I also, once again, just that Game of Thrones thing, I felt exactly the same way at the beginning, where it was like, oh man, like this is really cool, the Foresters, and this and that, and setting this up, and then just kept dragging on and dragging on. That ending was just abysmal, and also didn't help that I couldn't hear most of the sound effects that they had for the 360 version of the game.
Yeah, I remember you sent me a video clip of it from your phone, and it was it's surprising how uneventful certain things like that is without kind of the sound effects or any music going on other than just grunts.
Like no music, no like arrows hitting anything, no sword clashes, no like dirt or anything being spread. Just Asha over here,
Yeah,
and then just like
it was almost like a half-silent film you had going on there. It was like a mod you had going on.
Yeah, I mean, it was the it's the it's like probably they got all the footage from Game of Thrones at like Battle of the Bastards, and before that was even before that was like the cool fight scene. It was just like all the different audio that they recorded first, and so the sound editor sat down with the film editor, was like, okay, so let's just add the grunts in first so we can time everything else. Like, we'll do the music later, and just like, and then put in the sound effects of the sword and all that, and then we'll get to that. It's like they just like had the sound editor come in. It's like, okay, so I put the grunts in. Oh, we already shipped that. What? We need to put other stuff in. Nope, too bad. It's already gone.
Yeah, very much so. Yeah, I certainly feel you, CH. I had the same feeling of holding off on any kind of Telltale, any other kind of Telltale product after that, after the events of the uneventful Game of Thrones had occurred. I certainly was on the same boat as you, but enough time passed for me, and I'm also a big fan of Batman, so I had to check it out.
Yeah.
So they got me on that. I hope I don't get burnt. If I do get burnt this other time, I'm definitely I'm gonna hold off. Even if like Walking Dead, the new Walking Dead comes out, I'm still holding off. But if they come out with a new Wolf Among Us, I'm gonna break all my vows and purchase that right away.
They will definitely have my money for the next Wolf Among Us, but. No, you know what? Actually, no. I still gotta wait because the Game of Thrones one just burned me so badly, and I just felt like, wow, this is a total waste. I'm never going to do the season pass again until they can prove to me that they got a good track record. And so, as you've been also tying into the other thing that you said with Hitman, where the last episode it wasn't really up to par with the rest of everything, and that is the kind of thing I'm worried about, because every episode doesn't need to be fantastic, but it needs to be consistently good, and not underwhelming. And so that's why I'm a little bit more aware of the promises that these people make.
Yeah, it's certainly an interesting balance, I guess. There's quite many reasons, so much more. A lot of it's not. I'm sure it's not a lot of the choices that ideally the developers would want out of their games when it comes to like it being episodic like that. But it's more of a matter of the publishers. Publishers' ideas are in order to get money quick like that. It's not a perfect model, and it's one of the other things, one of many other things that we may be starting to see trends of at this point. There's that and microtransactions, and we could definitely get into discussions on the PlayStation 4, or like there's now the 4K kind of thing, maybe starting to kick off again, or starting to kick off.
Yeah, there's a lot to talk about. And speaking of microtransactions and recent trends, and I got to talk about Deus Ex: Mankind Divided, because first and foremost, holy hell, I love this game. It is basically more of what Human Revolution promised, and that is everything I wanted. And they even there was some talk that Adam Jensen was not originally going to be the protagonist, and that it was going to be a much larger game and much more expansive game. And then they cut it back to include Adam and cut back the content to fill into his specific story. And I felt bad about that because it was like, wow, that could have been an interesting twist if it was a whole new protagonist. But then they actually do something very interesting with him. And this is actually an article I was writing and then took down to re-edit some more because I accidentally jumped the gun on that one and accidentally released it a little bit too early on the website. So I took it down. But I love the fact that it's a paradigm shift of the first game, because the first game is Human Revolution. It is about augmented humans of basically incorporating machinery to become more and more incredible and more fantastical and stronger, smarter. And it's a question about what does it mean to be human in this renaissance of sorts. And in the start of Mankind Divided, something happened where all the augmented people have gone crazy. There was an incident where all augmented people around the world went a little nuts, and they violently attacked people, even killed people. And of course, it didn't continue. Adam Jensen was able to shut it down, but it's still this. It's fascinating because it's bigotry that's based on an actual event and genuine fears. It's not like racial. I think a lot of people overstep this, and I think the game wrongly identifies it as racism because they don't really make the argument of why it's a race. Why is an augmented human being another race? Maybe they could have taken a moment to address that, or maybe people who self-identify as a separate race, like mutants from the X-Men. But then you have this moment where nobody, and most of the public, they don't realize why all the augmented people went crazy. All they know is that they went nuts. It was because their augmentations. They don't know if it's going to happen again. They don't know if it's a permanent thing. They don't know if these people are actually dangerous, or if if they're just waiting for a signal to go out and for them to start indiscriminately killing people. And so it's a fear that's founded on some actual interesting insight, and it's people bring up the idea of oh, this is a very heavy-handed against maybe police states and police forces. I actually think it's a really even-handed approach of just these people trying their best to understand. Of course, there are people wrong on both sides, as well as people who genuinely hate this and still have to do it. But just this belief of yeah, we're kind of screwed here either way, and this sucks. And the world's in a depression or a recession right now. I can't really tell. Technology has ceased. And Adam Jensen, who was, sorry, to get back to the starting of this topic, he was once seen as kind of this paradigm of technology. Wow, he's an amazing character. And everyone's marvels at him at the first game. It's wow, you're full of this technology. And now he is totally, completely feared. And people are disgusted by him. Oh, man, can you believe him? And when you get on the trains, there's the augmented side and the human side of a train. And it's a loading segment where you'll be on a train and it'll be a loading screen. On the AUG side, nobody cares what Adam is doing. He's just standing in a corner. If he goes on the human side, all the humans are looking at him like, the hell is he doing on this side? And just giving him the dirty looks and just, it's little touches like that are brilliant. And I'm sorry, I've been talking for a long time. But I just wanted to say Mankind Divided uses Adam Jensen in a great way because they shift how the world sees him, and that changes a lot of the context of the entire story.
No, you're good, man. It's very, very interesting to hear about Mankind Divided. I hadn't had a chance to pick it up yet, just through the budget constraints. I've had I have to kind of hold off on that. I really do want to play it, and I've heard nothing but great things about just not even the story, but more about just more of a well-defined, even more tighter niche to gameplay level design of the game. Because I mean, the Human Revolution wasn't terrible by any means, but there were certainly things that could have been worked on a lot better, and that's well in effect to where it could definitely have benefited from sequels, and because that we have it right now, and it's been a lot more well defined and gone a long way from the first try at it, an experiment that they had with Human Revolution, and kind of like a couple of things were a little off kilter, and that they ended up kind of redefining in the director's cut with mainly the boss fights. I guess had a lot to do with that. But primarily, it's I never had any problems with like kind of their approach of the storytelling and just kind of the different opinions and views on the certain topics that they had going on with just manipulating the human body and whether it's like if it's like messing with just kind of like what people are, I guess, used to, or in modern medicine, it's just advancing a lot more. And I did really enjoy that a lot, and I very much looking forward to playing Mankind Divided in the future. I did also get to see a clip of kind of like the segregation kind of going on with even little touches of of like benches that only like humans are able to sit in, like not even augmented people can sit in them. It was just pretty much, it's a nice little touch there. Kind of very much into the realm of kind of like what Mafia 3 is gonna delve into as well. A lot of the racial issues, and I like that the developer they don't hold back on just showcasing what kind of tensions and racism going on in the 60s, and it's part of part of history. So I like that they don't shy away from that and actually make an attempt to make him that much more of a like a legitimate feeling of how it was back then, or how it could be with that Mankind Divided.
Yeah, it's the best fiction delves into parts of what we think about in reality, and with both Mankind Divided and Mafia 3, they hit upon certain anxieties I think a lot of people have these days, especially with Mankind Divided and the police state, or unfairly segregated communities, or unfairly demonized groups, which Mankind Divided definitely touches upon. And I really do want to see what 2K and the developers do with Mafia 3, since Mafia 2, that was a really, really good game. And I love the fact that they spent all that time and effort into an open world game where the open world was never really the main driving force.
It's very much the same kind of way how it was structured. It was like it was like one of these. It was a catalyst to kind of get you to fully immerse yourself into the world and experience the story. It was very much a story-driven game, and the sandbox elements were more just mainly as a means of really immersing you into the world. But you never really could do that much of kind of anything, not like full activities or anything like that you may see like in Saints Row or GTA. It was just more of a catalyst than anything else. And yeah, I've actually been playing a little bit of Mafia 2 since I was trying out the PlayStation Now service, where you're able to stream games through the PlayStation.
Oh, nice.
PlayStation 4, and it works really well if you have a really good constant internet connection. It works fantastically well, and it's very beneficial. I don't think I'll invest that much into it. They need to think a more wider, more popularized category of games. If they had Mass Effect on there, I sure as hell would pay the shit out of it in some way, shape, or form. I know it wasn't exclusive on the PS3, but it started off as a Microsoft exclusive on the 360. But like, whether it be that or any other kind of more popularized titles, that would be really a good service to have. And that way, you don't necessarily have to compromise with maybe purchasing games from the PSN network, where you're able to play a couple of PS2 games or anything like that. It's just like a just one price monthly service. And
yeah,
they should just they would be making bank if they had better games on that catalog, and you don't have to like. Sure, they may not have backwards compatibility, but if you're able to pay like $10-$20 for the PlayStation Now service and have a good chunk of catalog games, that would be the way to go.
a Netflix for games
There we
would
go.
be incredible. I
Oh
mean,
yeah.
we've been saying this since I think back in the college days, where before the economy turned sour, we were saying something like, yeah, we need to have a streaming service that you could pay 10, 20 bucks a month, probably 20 bucks a month, since movies are a little bit cheaper than games, and games yada yada yada, and have a catalog constantly updated of what people want to play and what people can enjoy, and instantly available to you. Of course, for this, I would assume you need to have an always online connection to access these, since you don't want people ripping these games off the servers and then downloading them and then just passing them around and making piracy easier. But we just gotta cross that gap
Yeah.
where it's also a problem of cataloging these games, because a lot of these games, unlike films, they don't get the immediate transfer into these storage catalogs, where it's not like Warner Brothers has like all their games backed up, but you don't have Metal Arms Glitch in the System, or Killzone, or not Killzone. Killzone, then that's pretty popular. But the one that was the precursor to Gears of War, Kill Shot, I think, or Stubbs the Zombie, or there's a lot of games, but they're only really popular games. It's not until there's a lot of fan feedback that they finally get an updated release or something along those lines, and we miss a lot of these great games that just kind of slip through the cracks.
Absolutely. I think there needs to be some kind of advantage taken, especially with this technology and service that PlayStation has. There needs to be some kind of way to implement as much games as possible, as much as the PS3 or PS2, even PS1 catalog into this PlayStation Now service. It seems a lot. It's very, just trying it out. It's kind of like a blend of a streaming service, is also kind of a emulation a little bit, kind of. It's kind of interesting how whenever you do play PS3 games on the PlayStation Now, when you can go through certain menus that allow you to access just like friend notifications or messages, and then it actually shows you that in the display of like a PlayStation 3 interface a little bit. So it has a little mix of that. Absolutely, it would be really beneficial. Like, you save so much on having to purchase these games on physical disc, or just eliminate a lot of clutter in terms of just physical disc, and you'll be able to. I would pay at least $20 to $30 for that service if it came with a nice big catalog of games for you to any play anytime, anywhere, every month. There certainly can be a way to implement a way for you to also download the game and have it be hard coded to just your system itself. That there's not a way that you can transfer it on disc. Just that way that you can avoid the piracy on that. It's just similar to like what Spotify has. You can actually download the songs, and that way you can listen to them and not necessarily have to rely on streaming them. If you go to like an area with no service, I don't know if there's a way to actually transfer those downloaded songs from Spotify, but they seem to be kind of hard coded into the program itself. But if they can do it, there's certainly a way that it could be done on console.
Oh, there can be a way. I just feel like they're kind of dragging their feet, because there's still money to be made by controlling the gates of who gets full retail launch, and then people will pull digital downloads like that. I mean, there was a time, for instance, back when I was playing on 360, that I couldn't re-download BioShock 2's DLC, Minerva's Den, and so I had to jump through all these hoops to re-download it when I couldn't go to the store because they pulled the DLC from the store. And so it's this really confusing conundrum of, how do we get access to this content even if we've already paid for it, if you guys remove it from the store?
Yeah, it's a very long and very I guess more complex issue than it needs to be in terms of like the digital storage. There's certainly can be better ways that it can be done, and
Mhm.
For a certain price, I see $20 as being pretty fair, especially with the big catalog of games on the PlayStation Now
Oh hell yeah!
service. If there was, there's decent enough titles on there that I would have liked to play, but I never did because I never had a PS3 at the time. But I think there still needs to be an additional more popular titles, more grander titles, than a lot of more not lesser known, not very popular ones that people are seeking out. If they had that, I would definitely get on board with that service on a monthly basis. But
Yeah,
right now they just added like Tomb Raider on there, and then just speaking of like Mafia 2, they just added Mafia 2 on there, and it actually was playing some of it, and it brought me back to when we did play it and we talked about it and we really enjoyed that game. That game is still really holds up in terms of like the narrative, and I like how it doesn't hold up as much now because it's kind of an older title. I remember when you first start the game and you get out of prison or out of the army and you go into the Joe's car and then you start driving out and you see the city from afar and you're driving into the city. It's like, oh my god, this is like the best opening of a game, like one of the best openings. You just start walking up to your old stomping grounds after getting out of the military, and oh man, it was well done.
yeah.
Just everything, the music, the camera angles, just everything that was set up for you was just also grand.
Also, I love that little moment that they just throw in there of the husband and wife having an argument about the car. The husband storms away mad, and you can help the wife fix up the car, and that was just a very, very nice little touch that it just made the entire narrative feel more alive because you're able to interact with these smaller characters on such a good level.
Yeah, that was one of the greater things about it. And I remember also when I was playing it, there's a segment in the game where you're first starting out to try to make extra money real quick to help out your family who was in the process of trying to pay back some loan sharks that the father that had passed away had debt with them, and they were trying to pay them off real quick. So you go to I think you go to like a warehouse or by the sea somewhere, and you try to start out to make some legitimate cash, and you're carrying around these boxes from left to right into this truck, and then I thought at first I wanted to actually try to carry all these boxes for all of them to the truck, and then it got to the point where it stopped me and I couldn't do it anymore. So you only had the option to walk out of there, and then the story continues. It's like, oh man, I thought I could go further with this, but they obviously saw me trying to do this, and it's like, nope, you ain't gonna be here all day. We gotta move on from this.
It is. Was it as tiresome and tedious as the San Andreas box stealing from one place to another?
I don't think it was as tedious as I thought it would be. I was very up for from the beginning with just having memories of it, that I was really willing to do that, and I think the San Andreas one was more tedious, but I think that it was funny that it stopped me from doing that, because I really thought I could just carry all those boxes from one end to the other, and it stopped me and just kind of just continued the narrative. It also had a kind of a weird collectibles kind of system you can partake in, like some sandbox games where you would just randomly find like old 40s or 60s Playboys.
Yep.
Those were funny.
It even worse is that it kept track of how much time you looked at them.
Oh yeah,
So
that was one of the miscellaneous items and miscellaneous stats you can look up.
you are a pervert and you should feel bad.
That's funny. But yeah, I was enjoying playing some of that the other day. I didn't realize how floaty the aiming was. It's one of those games where you have to get used to the aiming on that, because it's really it's really floaty, like really like you would
It's
try
not
to.
snap
Yeah,
connection.
yeah, it's not like
Not like Grand Theft Auto 5.
it's like the aiming is like on a cloud. It's like it's any slight push up, it'll just slowly start going up and just doesn't stop from there. It's a little bit hard to transition from that. Whether
That
it's
recoil will kill you, man.
oh man, the recoil. That's where that's where it gets you. You think you're out of control just aiming it right to the recoil. Oh man.
They have some problems, but that game is still one of those really great classic games with a very good narrative that would actually benefit from more people coming back to revisit it. And once again, I know there are smart people out there. Come on, we got to find a way to make that streaming service happen. And some people are not exactly bringing new, interesting innovation into the video game world with this next bit of news, which is that Sony has announced the PlayStation 4 Neo. And for those of you which is like the worst kept secret in the entire industry, where people were like, no, here it is. And then they showed it and they'd like, that's not it. Turn it on. They turn it on. That's still not it. It's like, all right, show the main menu. Show the main menu. That you made that up. No, I didn't. Here. And apparently it looks impressive on 4K TVs. It doesn't entirely do 4K with a price of $20.99, which I think is a really bad idea because they didn't even knock down the price of the OG PS4.
Yeah, I've been kind of looking into a little bit of the information because I wasn't keeping it up with it at the time it was announced. But yeah, I don't necessarily. The only difference I see I really see is just kind of like more of a bigger hard drive, and the resolution's supposed to be a little bit more higher than in 1080p. Which I mean, I mentioned this before to someone, and it's certainly an interesting proposition, but it's not. I'm not. It's kind of getting into that zone again where they're trying to sell how great graphics are rather than trying to sell the games again.
Exactly.
It's the same thing that's kind of happening again.
It happens every single damn generation, and nobody seems to understand. Don't just say, look at this graphical fidelity, look at the shading, look at the smoke effects, look at the particle effects, look at look at the bloom that we use. Like Halo 3 is a great playing game, but damn it, that bloom effect, like every time you look away from the sun, then you look back, you're suddenly blinded. And it's like, okay, graphics are nice. If you don't have interesting games to sell them, they mean nothing. And, for instance, Mankind Divided is a good-looking game, but that's mostly because it has a really good art style. It looks like a up-resed and better-looking Human Revolution, but that's because it also had a great art style, and that's what I was sold on. And you can have both. You like Witcher, where it's realistic, all those effects, as well as just having a great art style. But a lot of times you'll get by on just great art style alone, and people will remember you. Like Okami, people love Okami to this day, or Beautiful Joe, or Red Steel. Even people still remember that Red Steel game. But like Crysis 2, nobody remembers that game. Nobody goes back to play Crysis 2 and go, wow, this is so great. It's like, no. Graphics are temporary, and the realism gets passed by every other week.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
You gotta have good presentation all around and good games.
Yeah, it's just kind of got to get into that zone again. It would have been a nice proposition, and I guess in terms of the hard drive, essentially, because 500 gigs doesn't get you that far, and I've realized that since 2 months into the PS4. But it is possible to buy a hard drive and swap it out. It's many people have done it, so it's not super complicated. So you don't necessarily have to buy this PS4 Slim or PS4 Pro unless you have a 4K TV. That's really the only other reason why you would buy it. or if you don't have a PS4 at all. So it's an interesting proposition, and it's not a bad price for, I guess, what it's aiming towards. But it's certainly not a game changer. That's for certain. A PS4 Slim would do you wonders, since I think it's a bit cheaper than the PS4 Pro.
Yeah, it's and it's like people were saying, and I do agree with this. Why is Microsoft advertising the slim version of the Xbox One when there's a much better one coming around the corner, and you're sandwiching it between the mainstream model right now? Hey Tag, hey Steve Aram, see you guys in the message boards.
What up, Steve?
Hey.
Tag Gibby.
Yeah, it's so weird how they have between like, okay, here's our current model which is selling really cheap, and you can buy this one that's kind of better a little bit by $50, but the real one is going to be coming in like 6 months. So what incentive do you have for people to buy the newer, better one, the Xbox S? Because I don't see it. And then Sony comes out and does something even worse, where it's like you're offering a console with no price discount from the original model. You already announced that there's another one coming along, and a lot of the advancements are stuff that the Xbox One has, where it can't do 4K in its entirety, and it has some fidelity issues, and it is not that inherently stronger than, I don't know what the correct word for it is, but it's not, the specs are not up to stat of the Xbox One S, which is also going to be eclipsed by the next Xbox One. So I'm just wondering, who is deciding this?
A lot of a lot of it's just kind of to kind of announce and kind of prepare for the Black Friday and all the holiday deals. It's really all it is, I think.
Well, then why not just not say anything about the next PS4 or the next Xbox One and just sell those off? And it's like, oh, here's our new thing, this. And then you get interested people like say, oh, I always wanted to get an Xbox One. I got a PS4, but now I get this Xbox One S. Or I wanted to get an Xbox One, and now that they're keeping the prices low, I'll just get one of the older models and be able to buy that. But like by announcing the next big thing, you make those two things seem less relevant.
Yeah, it's not the best move, but it's, if you really look at it, I mean, this is kind of the same thing as well with just them Sony raising their prices for the online service. It's really not necessary. It's just they're doing it because they can, and they're really kind of, at this point, they're doing a little bit better than Microsoft is with their consoles, so they can really do what the hell they want, I guess. And
they're the industry leaders, yeah.
They are the industry leaders with the consoles, and they're really making as much bank as they can, because that's really the only thing Sony's making the most money out of. Their film division, the film division is crap, and nothing else is really doing as well as the PS4.
But Splinter, don't besmirch the good name of the Ghostbusters reboot. That was across the board. That was the box office success. That smashed the records of Captain America: Civil War.
Some folks with a hidden agenda will say the movie was a success and it made its money back. Others with more logical and statistical sense say it lost them $70 million.
Logical people who have access to the internet and to the website Box Office Mojo can see that's not true. And it is actually weird that for both the Xbox One and the PS4, if you look at the actual statistics, the consoles are selling great, but the software sales are worse than last generation. And there's just not enough games being sold. Like for the 360 and the PS3, they were selling pretty steadily. And then with the PS4 and Xbox One, for some reason, everyone just kind of, all the publishers just kind of assumed that people would not be interested in video games as much, I guess. And they just have had really bad sales. In fact, the only one that hasn't really had this is Nintendo's Wii U. And it's like, wow, Nintendo is back in the front again. This is, man, I never thought this would happen. Just, with the Nintendo kicking ass with the Wii, and then the Xbox 360 and the PS3 trailing behind, turns the tables. Okay, now it's PS4 in the lead with Xbox One behind them, and the Wii U is kind of really stale. But they have the best software sales, and it buggers my mind.
Yeah, it's the same thing we've mentioned already. It's already to the point now where there needs to be more of a focus on just selling the actual software itself than the actual hardware. It's really more cosmetics than anything else. If it was guaranteed or proven that the PS4 Pro or any other upgrades were actually, if they actually addressed or resolved, which is a main issue happens a lot of the games sometimes that we play, whether it be something online or just even single player offline. It's the lag. Where's the Pro? Is there lag in this game? Is it supposed to make the games not lag as much, or screen tears? Is this something that
got jackies?
Is this something that shouldn't be advertised, or should it be more of a concern rather than the graphical fidelities? What about some better games, but some original IPs? Where's the Suda 51?
Oh yeah, I mean, we need to. There definitely needs to be this kind of new, and that's the problem, where we have either indie games or we have AAA budget games. We don't have that middle ground anymore that we had back with the 6th and 7th generation, with stuff with Suda 51's kind of more gonzo crazy stuff, or Shinji Mikami, or even Peter Molyneux, or stuff like
No Man's Sky.
Yeah. I'll plant the seed and watch it grow. I mean, I love making fun of that guy just because he is such a wonderful human being, and a really cool guy. But he seems like such a nice guy, but he just promises the moon, and when it doesn't happen, you just feel bad because he seems so passionate about it. But you just have to put a hand on his shoulder and go, I'm going to make fun of you for this for the rest of your days, right? And then yeah. And, I mean, there's weird stuff that they don't see anymore, like Eternal Darkness, Sandy's Requiem, or Too Human, or Darksiders, where these kind of came out of nowhere and were gambits, or Mirror's Edge, or Brutal Legend, or the first Dead Space game, these were all studios taking chances. And we don't have that middle ground of kind of the first Witcher game, for instance. If you played the first Witcher game in the third one, you would assume that they were made by different developers, because it is such an astronomical leap in technical prowess, in combat engineering, in writing, in voice acting, in storytelling, that you would almost be forgiven if you just said, these guys don't even seem like the same developers. Where, Witcher 1 was kind of that mid-budget tiered game, and then that gained a cult following, and then it got a sequel, and then that sequel got so much love and praise and attention, then the third one came out. And then, and that's where we get kind of these middle developers becoming the new AAA guys. And we need to see that market again, and I don't know what to do in terms of finding that middle market. Oh, Steve Arome, our Lord Kojima can save the market. Steve, I have to say, I might believe that, maybe, but it's just Death Stranding is such a weird. Just watching that teaser, I felt like, Kojima just had this weird image, and now he has to work backwards to a game. I don't think that's a bad choice of game design. It's this seems way too weird for me right now. I really hope it's a great game, and I did love the best bits of Phantom Pain, but there's that. Yeah, it's Tag says, I fear Kojima's getting too abstract. Yeah, I feel like maybe it's getting a little ethereal. Maybe we're trying to go for a Dark Souls-esque kind of thing. But I'm sorry. Anyway, getting off track. Where we've had these kind of mid-level franchise that kind of start off rocky, and okay, maybe this isn't going to work as well, and then because they got attention and success, then they got better and better, and and huge public acclaim, like Bayonetta, for instance, or where they have or like these other mid-level games that we don't have a brute force anymore. We don't have Crimson Skies: High Road to Revenge, and it's really unfortunate.
Need more Deadly Premonitions.
Yeah, exactly. And D4 was Swery's next grand adventure. I loved the hell out of that game, and they didn't they left on it to be continued, and then never to be continued. And it breaks my heart when I see that. But at least it was a different thing, and there's just got to be some type of market that will accept new alternatives.
We need Bayonetta 3.
Bayonetta 3. We need okay. What would you rather have as the I don't know who the New Yorker stereotype character is, but would you rather Joe Pesci or Danny DeVito voice him?
We need to make it more legit. We need to get Danny DeVito to do a voiceover in Bayonetta 3.
I just watched him in Lethal Weapon, and I was like, oh my god, that would be so like Lethal Weapon 2. Sorry, where he was like where he was the Lou Lou Cost, I think, where he was just he was just a bag of energy. Oh, okay.
Like Tag said, I have been following Swery on the Instagram. He is officially became a Buddhist priest.
You are kidding me. So like he's not making games anymore?
I think he was taking a break from it for a little bit, but I think he wanted to be the first Buddhist priest game developer, and I think he's on track for it right now since he's officially a Buddhist priest. So you gotta follow his Instagram. He's got some interesting things going on there. There's that, and what else? There needs to be a more influx of the mid-tier games and mid-tier game developers getting more of opportunity to shine and thriving, as we've clearly have seen with CD Projekt Red. It's all just became this one of the higher tier developers, like the more established and developers that actually do a lot of great things with the technology they're given and the budget, and take a lot of fan consideration. They're already up there with like the top 5, top 10 developers at this point. We're already like so excited to hear about their new projects. I'm just genuinely excited to see what they do next and actually play the Gwent video game.
Yeah, those guys, and it also helps that they got the financial funding from Good Old Games, where since they control that, then they can like constantly get money in to funnel into actual game development. And what I love is that they're not just, unlike Valve, who just kind of sitting on their asses with all their money. And I'm sorry, they are. It's been the same amount of time between the release of Half-Life 1 and the release of Half-Life 2 as it's been from the last release of Half-Life 2 Episode 2 to like a couple of days ago, where it's like that amount of time still in development. Guys, there's Valve time, and then there's not working on the game. You need to release something that's not just like, oh, we hired a bunch of fans who did this fan game, we're going to give you a bigger budget, go. And I love the fact that they're taking their new stuff. Cyberpunk 2077 looks interesting. I mean, I've only seen that one still image of that psionic cyber woman being shot at. But I am so interested in seeing what they do, because I loved Wild Hunt. I love Hearts of Stone and Blood and Wine, and they are great at writing fantasy, and they understand all the different aspects of fantasy writing, of kind of that dark fantasy or the adventurous fantasy or everything. It kind of like Red Dead Redemption, where that game got every single genre and subgenre that it attempted were so right. and that's how they did it for the Witcher games. I'd like to see how they do it for sci-fi and see what they do differently from Eidos Montreal, where with Deus Ex, and seeing maybe how they differ in their approaches.
I mean, Eidos as well has kind of been there as well, kind of really been stepping up their game, and a lot of people haven't paid a lot of attention to with what they're doing, because it's not a super big, I guess, franchise like any other mainstream franchise we have going on, but they're really as well are on track with being really up there is in terms of having the reliance of an assurance that they'll pump out a good game. Speaking of The Witcher, late August was there was the release of The Witcher 3 Game of the Year edition, which includes all the DLC, the 16 pieces of DLC, which was already originally free, and then it'll come also equipped with the 2 story DLCs, expansion DLCs, for $50. So if you have not picked up The Witcher, this is the perfect deal to get.
Okay, if you haven't picked up The Witcher, why?
What you waiting for? It's like, well, it's probably one of the best games made in the last 10 years. I definitely put that up there.
Yeah, this is up there with Knights of the Old Republic. This is up there with the Mass Effect trilogy and Planescape Torment.
I love it so much. I have like 3 Witcher tattoos as it is. It's phenomenal. I'm working on getting a full figure Geralt on my other arm. I already have Ciri on my left forearm, so I'm working towards getting a more complete collection.
Nice.
But I do have I do have all the signs as well.
Oh, that is, those signs are badass, and they're also very simplistic in their design, so you can immediately recognize them. Go, like, yeah, that's Ard, that's Igni, that's Yarden.
Did you? Tag says he finally got around to buying the DLC. I hope you've played it and finished them.
Yeah. He says he doesn't know how. Tag doesn't says.
You need to find a time.
Yeah.
Find a time, Tag.
Yeah, they are so worth it. And speaking of things that are worth your time, or maybe not, Nintendo is developing a Mario runner for the iPhone.
I saw the little trailer snippet of it. It's like everybody has, I guess, talked about for the last I don't know how long, I guess, since phones have been around. Like, this is like they easily could have taken advantage of this mobile gaming market, and they're already on point to do that. This was the success of Pokemon Go. We're gonna actually finally be getting an official Mario game on the phone. I guess that's pretty interesting. It actually looks a little bit more complex or more in depth than your standard simplistic mobile game. It seems like there's a little bit more timing and in your jumps, and much like the actual console games itself. So it seems pretty good so far from when I saw the trailer. So I'm gonna have to wait till it comes out on Android, because I don't have an iPhone right now. We'll have to see how it develops.
Yeah.
I don't think we ever talked about it. Did you really get into Pokemon Go at all? But when it came out on its peak.
No, honestly, I did not, just because it involved exercise, so I stayed away from that primarily, and I couldn't. It just kind of felt like, I don't know, like I have a Game Boy, I have Pokemon Fire Red, and I can just put that in and then play that instead of this thing, which is a very simplified version of it, which isn't as interesting.
Yeah, I feel you. I kind of was on the same boat as well, but it just ended up blowing up so much into such a social game, and it felt like everyone and their mothers were playing it, especially just going out in general. You see people walking out and meandering around the middle of the street. It's like, what the? Either they're crazy or they're playing Pokemon Go. But it was one of those either ors kind of situations going on. I really did enjoy. I really did enjoy the simplistic nature of it, I guess, and the concept of it. I and when it first came out, like the first month, I had a blast with it because the way that it was it's very different than how it is now. It's just kind of more watered down now. It's nearly impossible to really get anywhere at this point. They've updated it and changed things so much because the community was really all about it, and just I guess some of the tracking websites maybe it had an interference with their servers in some capacity, and they ended up having to get those shut down. And ever since then, it's not really been fun because it's already kind of hard enough and to really track any Pokemon on. There's really not a radar or anything to really do anything with it. So I just haven't played that much at all for at least a couple of weeks now. But that was my experience with it. I had fun with it for what it was, and it actually gave me some form of reason to go outside and get some activity going, which is definitely what it was. It was actually it was one of those brilliantly smart ways to get people to go outside.
Yeah, there were so many stories. I mean, of course, there were stories of like, oh, this idiot was driving and he was trying to catch a Pikachu and he crashed into this pole. But like, there was also these other stories of like people meeting up and of like a diverse range of backgrounds and ethnicities just coming together and just like, yeah, we love playing Pokemon, and just it was a social experiment that I think was absolutely wonderful. It probably won't stand the test of time, especially if it's not really updated to any meaningful kind of gameplay loop. But I will say it's, and it was nice to see that there was something very, very positive that the game industry could produce. And I do wonder if Mario, I know it won't be the same because Mario is kind of just like an infinite runner, but that people will have that same fervor for a Nintendo game on an iPhone that they did with Pokemon.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see kind of the reaction with it. It's going to be a certainly different game, and there may still have a lot of similar elements and things that people love Mario for. It's just going to be a little bit more streamlined for a mobile device. So it seems like it could have a lot of potential to be pretty successful, especially with just how people love Mario, playing Mario like that, and just having it be portable to you. It's going to be a little bit more popularized, and I think more successful. So only time can tell, and I'm more than willing to try it out. There's been a lot of great games that have come to the mobile games market that are originally from console backgrounds. I mean, there's like Hitman Go was really good, and there's already been like a Lara Croft Go, and there's already a Deus Ex Go, so it's like very similar elements in gameplay, but they change it up enough to match the themes of the games, which I liked a lot that they did. So it's very much proven that it can be done. Not exactly like the consoles, but it could definitely be done to streamline it for the mobile device to some extent. But there's that. That's a very interesting, very interesting announcement that they had going on. And Nintendo, I'm still waiting for these. I'm still waiting for the Bayonetta amiibo. I know you're waiting to announce the new console so that you can announce these amiibos. But damn you, these should have been out already. I want my Bayonetta amiibo.
They got a pretty good lineup with Platinum Games in terms of making they made No More Heroes for the Wii, and No More Heroes 2, and then they went with the Mighty, not Mighty Number 9, which was a failure, but what was it, the Magnificent 100?
Something like that.
And then they did that. Then they produced
similar. Yeah,
and then Bayonetta 2, where they took a risk on that. So I would not be surprised if Platinum just said like, here, you guys gave us so many more opportunities than anybody else. Just you can take the rights here and make your own amiibo. I'm sure they'll fly off the shelves.
I will certainly buy them. I hope that I know they've been talking about it for a long time, ever since Bayonetta was officially in the Super Smash Brothers roster. It was like an obvious choice to have it become an amiibo at some point, because almost every single character that's in Super Smash has had an amiibo. So
yeah,
it's only a matter of time. I'm only thinking that there's not been an announcement of it, or they probably just hold it off until they announce a new console with, I guess, the same, maybe a repackaging of Super Smash Brothers or another iteration of it to actually come out with these amiibos, I guess, just to sell it and sell the new console. That's my speculation, but it's my only thing that I'm looking forward to actually buying. It's like the peripheral of choice, it's a nice game peripheral and also a nice accessory to collect, just like my my Yoshi amiibo from Japan.
Yeah, it's that I see now why you went to Japan, just for that one damn Yoshi.
Just to get my pink and green Yoshi early. I could have sold for like $30.
You went over where they made it proper, and you I bet you just stole it right off the assembly line. It's like,
yeah,
how dare you, sir? Come back here.
Mm-hmm.
You know how much I paid to get in here? I'm not leaving until I get one of these sons of guns.
And I get a sushi roll on the way.
Worth it.
Definitely worth it. But yeah, there's that. We'll have to see what happens with that. I did get to try the since you asked a question in the chat. I did get to try the. I finally was able to find a place that sold the Crystal Pepsi, and it was pretty.
Ooh.
It was pretty good. It's like a lighter. I guess it's like a lighter, softer version of a Pepsi, and as it is, I didn't realize how much of, like, just sugar-wise some of these sodas are, especially like Sprite. There's like a lot of sugar in those, but it's a nice. The Crystal Pepsi is a more crisper, lighter version of the Pepsi, but it's pretty good, and it looks like water from the outside looking in.
Wow,
good stuff.
You know, it's weird. I've never actually. I lived through the 90s, and I don't remember anything about Crystal Pepsi. The only thing I remember it from is being mentioned on Fooly Cooley. That's it.
Fooly Cooley.
Yeah, it was just like they're talking about Crystal Pepsi. I'm like, Crystal Pepsi? What the fuck are they talking about?
Is this another slang for some drugs?
It's like, wow, these Japanese got some weird stuff over there. Crystal Pepsi with actual crystals in it.
That's the
or maybe
formula.
The Chris Farley. Maybe the Chris Farley joke. Do you know you're drinking Colombian crystals? As God is my witness, I will have you all.
It's the Heisenberg formula, the Crystal Pepsi.
Oh man, that would be just the best.
Absolutely.
Bryan Cranston's on the Japanese commercials over there as Heisenberg, like making a Crystal Pepsi can for just like a regular Japanese like guy going to college, and then he just like gives it to him looking rough, and then like gives him a little nod, and the Japanese guy's like, "Okay, thanks, I'm gonna leave now, bye."
It's interesting. I actually wanted to go, since we're near the kind of the lateral half of the podcast. I wanted to answer a question by Tag that he had, very similar to what he had asked the BGB on their last episode for last Friday. There's the question of, if you had the funds to make your own line of video game consoles to sell, what features and accessories would you give it? Now that's a very interesting question, harkening back to kind of the thoughts of unnecessary features or features that are prominently advertised as being the main seller of such product. It's a very very interesting question. I think I wish I had the mindset of being able to make such a console with such interesting features that may not even cross our minds. That may be like the next big thing, the next Wii. I'm very much leaning towards it's already there, but I do like the idea of some sort of virtual reality kind of feature going on there. If done well, if there's certain things that need to be taken to effect. I haven't personally tried any kind of VR other than like my personal accessory that I received with my Samsung Galaxy S7 Edge for pre-order. That's kind of like my only little introduction into the Oculus technology or virtual reality technology. It has been pretty interesting at the time that I tried it. I haven't touched it since, but there's still some things that could be there. There's some things that could work. There's promise there.
It's weird because it comes at a time where like the technology comes around and it's capable of being made, but the ideas for it don't come, like the really great ideas for it don't come until much later, when a lot of people have lost interest.
Yeah, it's one of those things. It's a very interesting question. Yeah, I mean, almost a good amount of things have been done, and there's other stuff that hasn't been done that I don't have like the super creative mind to think of. Something that's, I guess, fully, maybe not necessarily fully immersive with just limitations to just the eyesight or just the headset peripheral. Maybe more of like a overall experience of your body and just using all your kind of motors and going on there. Just some sort of like Matrix-esque kind of experience where you're maybe sitting in a luxury gaming chair where just a lot of the things you feel in the game or tense up on you, or just there's a lot more fully immersed experience within all parts of your body. As weird as that sounds.
No, immersion
like
is
fully virtual surround sound gaming experience, like or there could also be some sort of maybe like what is it? Some kind of projection in front of you, like Tony Stark-esque technology. Has some projections, playing games on the go, and playing them through like a projection, like a virtual projection. Holograms. Yeah. That's the word. Holograms.
I mean, the virtual reality would be very, very interesting in a lot of cool cases, and it would also have to be balanced out by the idea for me that some games play better when you have immediacy with buttons and using mouses, where you can just immediately look around or click stuff or press a button to do something. Then a task that you would normally not have to wait and do in real life, because you're not going to get always the correct feedback of what it's supposed to feel like in real life to the virtual reality stuff that we have now. And I don't know how you'd be able to balance that, because I'm not a smart person who works on these virtual realities stuff. And I do appreciate how they're trying to push them. For myself, the only thing that I would really want to have for my console, of what I would consider for my console, would be having music or something interesting going on in the background in terms of sound. Like the first Xbox, and the Wii system, I just love the fact that they had music going on in the background. Or I love the original Xbox that had the weird sound going on in the background, like it's kind of these engineering sounds and clicks and whirs. And they even have, if you wait long enough, it gets to a sound clip where it's actually a audio edited copy of signals coming from the Apollo 11 mission that in the background. And it was just like, I love the weird stuff like that, or like the very entertaining music stuff. So it'd have to be some kind of audio enhancement as well for the main menu.
Yeah, that's very interesting. I do like that idea. I guess the thing that struck me all of a sudden, it's a very novel idea, but it would be an amazing feature in a console. Free online gaming.
That would also be fantastic. I would yeah. Also, I would have a section of a list of games that you've downloaded and you can re-download. Or if, for instance, if you do have a service like Netflix, it would immediately warn you when these games are being taken off the servers. Of like in 17 days, Donkey Kong Country will be taken off the network, and so just learn, make sure to download it now or play it while you can, and having that little stuff, like little touches. For most part, the PS4 and the Xbox One, they seem to have all their stuff down pat, and I would also just kind of bring back for me the blades for the Xbox 360 that I thought was like, wow, that's really cleanly designed. I love that, and it just like they never got that pinnacle of like, oh wow, this is really well made for me. I just like the blades.
Yeah, fair enough. It's a lot of preference in terms of like themes or designs. There's been a lot of certain designs, especially from the past consoles, that elements of them that I like to see added all into like a culmination of just one kind of design based off of many other things. I guess another thing would be, having some sort of interesting mini game that you can play during like loading or installing a game. Like there's a very few games that do that. Like back in, like there's like Bayonetta where they had you can practice your moves during the loading screens, which is really cool to do. It's just all completely optional. If you just wanted to stare at the screen, you can do that, or you just practice your moves and then let it. And in no time, you feel like the loading screen is not as bad. There needs to be some sort of stuff like that more implemented.
Even something simple like Devil May Cry 3, I think, had the ability to where you could, like, the loading screen, you could press a button and you do sword slashes against the loading screen, or you could fire your gun against it, and it wouldn't do anything. It would just be like take a little damage, but it wouldn't ever be destroyed. It would just be like you could hit it in terms of like working out your frustration and just waiting for it to load.
Yeah, there used to be a little bit more of that, a little bit more of that concept with certain games, I guess, to maintain the tone or the consistency or theme of the game. Like it would just feel weird if you're having like a mini game during like The Last of Us or something like that. It would be a little off-putting, but something more of a fighting game or something that with more less of a expectance of being able to take it seriously, that could make it work. Just stuff like that would be really nice. Tag's bonus question is, what would you name your console?
Ooh.
I remember this episode of Drake and Josh, they had a made-up console based off the Xbox. It was like a sphere. They call it like the X-Sphere or something like that. It was like very much in a combination of that and like the GameCube, but just mixed into one. It's like instead of a square, it's like a sphere or a circle. X-Sphere.
I'd call mine the Circle Box, because it would just be like you either get a circle or you get a box. When you open up when you get the actual console, it would either be in the shape of a circle or a box. So either way, you'd kind of have to deal with whatever you got. You either got a circle or a box-looking one. That's it.
It's the awesome box.
Yeah. The X Awesome Box X. I gotta think of a better one. That just sounds like a username on YouTube.
The X Awesome Box Station. The X Station.
The Game Station Box.
It's I guess it's in hindsight, it's I don't know. It takes a lot of. It's harder to name a console than
It is.
originally thought, because it's can mean many things. It can be like a meta thing. It's has multiple meanings.
A console's a many splendid thing.
Yeah, I mean, think about the consoles we had before. We had the Super Nintendo, the Nintendo 64,
Mm-hmm.
Playbox, GameCube 64. That's a good one, Tag.
That's a beautiful one. We trademark that son of a gun.
It's better than anything I was thinking of right now. But yeah, just thinking about the variety of different names from some of the consoles, whether it be something original or a little bit more of a variation of the name itself, which usually indicates it's a predecessor.
Mm.
It's very interesting.
The Nintendo 63. I mean, that was a step down, but fortunately, the 64 brought it back up.
Yeah. Yeah, the Dreamcast, the Commodore 64. I don't know where they come up with these additional numbers of consoles. That there haven't been any other previous incarnations of them, other than to just give it an additional higher number. And there hasn't been an Xbox 269 or an Xbox 359. That's always threw me off a little bit. It reminds me of the Fortune they had going on, and like it was like the Jaws something in Back to the Future, like 36.
Or in Spaceballs, Rocky 5000.
Yeah.
or the Atari 2600.
Yeah,
you know?
There's just many like that. We take that for granted, how kind of complex, or maybe not as complex as we may think of it too much on naming a console.
Mm-hmm.
There it is.
It's certainly. I mean, it's got to be marketable. It's got to be able to appeal to a good number of people. It's got to stand out. Like the Nintendo GameCube was called the Dolphin in development. I can't think of what. I think it was the. I think the Xbox One was called the Revolution when it was in development. And it's just you got to find those right combination of marketing, and you want to test them with people, but you don't want to trust them too much, because sometimes the marketing testers don't know what they're talking about.
The accessory to the Revolution would be Prince and the Revolution.
Yes,
the copyright claims on that.
With Che Guevara on the front cover of the box. It has nothing to, like, there's no games bundled with it, like, about Che Guevara. It's just like a picture of Che Guevara on the front of the box. Yeah, man. I am not sure what. I mean, it's a complicated process, but you got the Game Boy Advance, you got the Vita, which. Apparently that didn't get the right marketing push, and people or the Ouya.
Ouya, I remember that. That was like a flash in the pan. I mean, that was it's an interesting idea. Like I like the idea of a portable emulation system. It's a very good idea that you're able to store a lot of the older games on there. It's interesting for some occasions on how you want to kind of go about that. I always find it easy myself. It's easy for me to just kind of plop down here and just set that all up on my laptop, and I guess it's more of a matter of convenience and portability if you want, because I could just play any older kind of Super Nintendo game on the laptop, just as simple as that. You plug it in on the TV, get a nice thing going there.
Yeah, it's unfortunately the Amazing Frog. That's all they got.
Yeah.
Yep.
But there's that, ladies and gentlemen. If you don't have any further questions for tonight's podcast, we'll be heading out for tonight. It's been a fun time, CH, catching up a little bit. I know there hasn't been much kind of going on. I guess in some respects there's been stuff going on with kind of our own personal, maybe mundane lives, but we try to keep it as interesting as possible.
Oh yeah,
and
try to spice it up.
Spice it up and play as much as we can. Yeah, I'm actually kind of looking forward to trying out Mafia 3 when it gets kind of close, because there's a lot there that seems like very promising, and I just like I like the fact that the character Vito is in there in that game, which is kind of like a nice throwback to like it's actually like a legit sequel to Mafia 2.
Yeah.
But you're not playing as that character. I like that. At least the concept that they had brought the character back.
Mm.
That's very cool.
They did also the same thing with the first Mafia game, where you have that mission where you're paid to assassinate that one guy who's just washing his car. That was the protagonist in the first Mafia game, in Mafia 2. Mm-hmm.
Cool.
Yeah.
I like that. I like how it all kind of gets tied together like that. But yeah, we'll have to see how that turns out. What else? That's about it. There's that, and we had some DC movie announcements as well with of Deathstroke.
Yeah, who's that? Joe
Manganiello.
Joe Mang. Joe Mang. It's Shane from The Walking Dead. Yo, man. It's Joe Manganiello, who's in Magic Mike. What is that? What else has he been in?
He's been in True Blood, and very much recently the Pee Wee Herman movie on Netflix.
Oh man, I need to watch that.
It's really good. I was pleasantly surprised. I thought it would turn out to be not as good, but it still maintained a lot of the great, like a lot of the great moments that you think about when you think about like that Tim Burton Pee Wee Herman movie, and it's not as like a cult classic as that, but it kind of gets like almost there. It almost gets there, but it's still a very enjoyable watch.
Well, you've got it. That sounds like a very positive review, and I will go watch it.
Yeah, it's cool. I like the idea that we're at least getting a different villain for the solo Batman movie other than the Joker right now.
Yes.
There needs to be more of an opportunity given to different characters in these, because there's so much more different interesting other villains that Batman has, that we can kind of get more of a sense to actually be able to experience them on the big screen, and whether it be a newer character we haven't seen before, or even a reoccurring one, to just be interesting to see how much of a different take they can do. There's just so many different ideas and concepts they could do for an infinite amount of movies with just all these different villains. It just needs to be. I'm just happy that we're getting that at least, and not we need a break on the Joker. We've been needing one for a long time.
It's like,
in the movies.
Listen, how can we miss you if you never leave?
Yes, that's the absolute greatest statement ever.
Yep, but yeah, I'm looking for. I still have not seen Suicide Squad yet. I will rectify that soon. But I'm looking forward to more good superhero films, and I will keep my eyes out for interesting things to come out, and also some good reviews for DC Rebirth too.
Oh yeah,
So,
I gotta read up on that. There's a couple of story arcs I'm kind of waiting to kind of get a little bit further into development before I start, I guess, picking up some of the trades. I'm pretty interested in checking out some of the All-Star Superman that's going on, and there's certainly like other titles out there as well. From what I've heard, it's kind of like a little out there, much like a lot of the reinstallments or rebooting of the universe that they got going on, especially with what I've been hearing of, like apparently the Watchmen now are part of the DC universe.
Yeah, that's what I heard. That they had Dr. Manhattan show up. They had the comedian's pin. Still waiting for Jackie Earl Haley to show up in there somewhere.
Yeah, it's very interesting. I guess, I mean, they technically are a part of it, and I guess in the sense of them being in Vertigo, So it's kind of like an interesting idea to kind of put forth into that a little bit. But
Yeah,
regardless of like kind of the weird decisions DC does make with their universes and always like resetting them a lot, they always seem to be coming up on top with like their sales, surprisingly, because they always got at least got a lot of things going on. I don't know a whole lot what goes on with Marvel. I just don't keep up with the Marvel Comics universe.
Yeah, Marvel Comics, I think they're canceling some titles, actually. They're not doing so hot in the sales, so I guess they got to go back to square one. You know, it's weird. They haven't done a grand reboot like New 52 or Rebirth.
Yeah, I mean, at least with some of the DC stuff, there's been at least talks and a lot of discussions and about a lot of big story arcs, but I haven't, other than like me hearing about Captain America being part of Hydra, which is like blew people's socks off at the time, which is kind of the emotional reactions with it. That's the only thing I've ever heard from Marvel kind of going on in terms of their comics line. It seems like a lot of the really good stuff it's kind of like was around the late 90s and early 2000s, I guess. So there's a lot of interesting titles out at that time for Marvel.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the Brian Michael Bendis Daredevil runs and like Grant Morrison doing some X-Men.
Yeah, and Grant Morrison, I kind of want to see the crazy Grant Morrison on doing Marvel stuff. Like if he did a Doctor Strange run, I think that would be fantastic.
Oh man, I'd pick that up in a second.
Right? I mean, think about like a down-to-earth character like Batman getting the weird stuff out, like of Batman of En Sabanur. Or what was the purple and yellow Batman? Like bring back Batmite.
Batman of Zur-En-Arrh, Zur-En-Ra, something like that.
Oh man, I just like to see him like if he did a Dr. Fate or a Doctor Strange movie story, that would be fantastic.
Yeah, it would be. He's always Grant Morrison's always has interesting stories to tell. I like him for his at least kind of trying a lot of different things out, and he's very much has a full sense of like the character's background, so he always will make very rough mentions or obscure mentions to like a lot harkening back to like the really old time starting out origins, just mentioning a lot of that, referencing a lot of the stuff back from the older Golden Age comics when they originally started out from. Much like kind of like when I got to read his Earth 1 Volume 1 edition of Wonder Woman, had a couple of those things in there. Very much harkening back to like the original ideas and concepts of Wonder Woman, where it was more about handling issues more with their words than their fists back in the day.
Yeah, just one of the, I guess, like a purveyor of a certain ideology, and just saying, like, listen, we can settle this peacefully. And then, of course, she has to slap around some stupid people every once in a while.
Yeah, so that had a lot of those elements, and when he was writing Wonder Woman for the Earth 1 titles, those which are always interesting reads because you get more of a redefined, not officially canon, but can be canon if it really hits it out of the ballpark. Yeah. But it's more of other writers' interpretations or retellings of certain origins. Just it changes things up, and they're always interesting reads to check out.
I wanted to definitely check out Superman Earth 1 just because J. Michael Straczynski, my favorite guy, who wrote one of the best runs of Spider-Man ever. I'd love to see what he does with Superman.
Yeah, I've heard those have been pretty interesting reads as well. I like that's available out there. It's a little bit rough because they usually they don't come out as frequently, which may or may be a deterrence in terms of like the overall scope of things, but yeah, they take a while to come out, especially those Earth 1 titles, because the people that are involved with them usually have other things going on. So by the time they ever get a chance to write another volume, it'll be like another 5 or 3 years later.
I definitely. I mean, for now, one of my favorite stories was Kevin Smith's "The Evil That Men Do," and he wasn't kind of put any under time constraints, and so he let something like 3 years go by before he finally finished the story. And it was still a great story, but just I can't imagine waiting for that story for so long and to come out and then just like all your fans who wanted to read this are dead. They died ages ago.
They stopped reading Spider-Man and saw other comics.
They have families.
I guess it could be a nice, pleasant surprise to have that come out after such a long wait. I've had that happen as well. There were certain music artists that I was anticipating like their albums, and they've been talking about it for years, and to like have it officially come out like this year was like, oh my god. I had forgotten about it, but I still had a lot of interest to actually invest time in checking it out. So it's very similar in that aspect of waiting for something or having it be unexpected, like a comic or movie.
Mm. It's it's one of the things that I kind of wish that WB and DC would take some of these writers who are writing some of these great works and just ask them to be story consultants or just help, because they know what stories are and how these characters tick. And for instance, if they do make a Man of Steel sequel, maybe they should bring back J. Michael Straczynski from the Superman books, because he's also a screenwriter. He wrote Babylon 5, and he wrote Changeling, and he's an accomplished screenwriter in his own right. And so, but just like, don't ignore what's so amazing from the comic books just because you think you're trying to do something different than the movies.
Yeah, and we may be already in the process of getting that, especially with Jeff Johns being officially now ahead of the DC movies entertainment now, and hopefully we'll be able to get a little bit more of a change in the directions of the future DC movies. I guess starting with maybe Justice League, or maybe past the Justice League, it's going to start getting a little bit more of a actual structure and not harkening on deconstructing the heroes, and we want to see them in their prime. And,
right.
Rather than kind of, it could be interesting to have a deconstruction of them, but we need to be able to start out at least seeing them in their prime, and not all dark and foreboding. We need to see them in their prime, and I hope we get that, and we get some good character interactions in Justice League, and it just seems like it's got a very high potential.
Yes, and I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, man. So, other than that, ladies and gentlemen, it's been a fantastic night with you all. I appreciate Tag and Steve Rome for dropping by in the chat and always gracing us with their wonderful positive energy and presence. You guys are beautiful. Yes.
Thank you guys so much.
Yes, it's been a wonderful night and discussions. We had quite a different slew of things. It was a lot of fun. Looking forward to doing it again once more with you, CH, and we'll be back with another episode very soon. As soon as we are capable of doing it, it will be episode 186. So,
whoa,
yeah. As always, check out the website. We'll do our best to constantly post it with some sort of new content in some shape or form. Expect possibly CH's re-upload of his review of Deus Ex Mankind Divided as soon as possible. There's no rush at all. But whenever you get the chance, when it's done, like Duke Nukem Forever, when it's done.
It'll be done when it's done.
See it.
If it's like Duke Nukem Forever, it still won't be done when it's done.
Absolutely. That's the fact that that game came out and I played it. I feel it was a part of history, even though it wasn't that great of a game. But to be honest, like even after that long, I'm surprised that it was at least able to start up.
Yeah, it had a rocky road, and at least it wasn't a terrible game, but it was at least one of those things like, oh, okay, it wasn't the grandness that everyone was hoping for, and it still has that place in video game history.
Yes, that's one of those cases where it was just been in development for so long, and the ideas and concepts were such dated at the time that they were developed, and Gearbox was just kind of like shining up a kind of piece of turd that hasn't fully developed.
No, they did not. But fortunately, we are aware of their lies with that and Colonial Marines, and so hopefully we'll be able to spot them the next time.
Yes, but to each his own. Thank you, everybody, for listening. I'm Spiller47, signing off on this wonderful night. See you guys on the next one.
Absolutely, and I'm CH Gorog, and I will see you all later. Have a good night, or day, or afternoon.